All right, my friends, welcome back to the Reisinger Build. We're on episode 3. We're really getting to rocking on construction now. And if you look at the site, we're totally prepped too. This is what I like a job site to look like. We want that construction fence to have a nice black windscreen so neighbors dropping by can't necessarily see if there's a mess on the other side. It really gives us that professional look. We got a Build logo stencil, which was kind of fun. So we were able to stencil the windscreen. And then of course we've got our job site sign up with our address for inspection purposes, but also a QR code so we can let people know kind of what's going on the job site. Now this episode is going to specifically talk about underground utilities, which in this case is really plumbing, but we've got a little bit of electrical as well. Today's Build Show, everything that happens under the slab, let's get going.
A Build original series in partnership with Builders First Source. The Reisinger Build.
All right guys, come take a look here. Here's what we got going on. Everything from underground plumbing is in place now. And let me give you a little bit of a tour of what's happening. Unfortunately, the city made us put in a brand new water line and a brand new sewer line. I would have liked to have reused those. It's not worth getting into it, but it did put a bit of a budget hit to start with. So first off, this pipe you see right here that's coming through the form boards, that's gonna be our incoming water pipe sleeve. You could call it a conduit, you can call it a sleeve, but what you're seeing there is basically Schedule 40 PVC that you're normally seeing for drain waste vent, and it's going on an angle back to where we're gonna stub out inside the wall cavity. Now remember, we're not in a zone that gets typically freezing weather. If we were in the north, we'd be putting this anywhere from 2 feet to maybe 3 or 4 feet underground at a minimum. But here in Austin, Texas, as long as we've got a foot of soil on top of that, we're totally good when it comes to freezing. We will insulate this line when we put it in the yard, but this pipe is gonna allow us to someday change that if we needed it. Also, we can sleeve it later. It's gonna make sure the concrete's not gonna touch it. Now, the main pipes that you see sticking up on this foundation here, this is our drain waste vent system. Drains for showers and sinks, waste for all your toilets, and then vent pipes as well, which will gather and put those through the roof. And that allows, when you flush a toilet, for that water to go down, the air is gonna come down that vent pipe. Here's what's interesting though, is we also are being really cautious about overflowing water. I'm a big nerd when it comes to making sure that I've got a belt and suspenders approach to make sure my houses aren't getting wet. And wet from the outside, but also wet from the inside. I mean, you think about a typical shower is like a tropical rainforest when it comes to the amount of water you're using in your shower. And if there's a leak anywhere in the house, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to have some type of backup for that leak. So as I walk in here, let's actually kind of walk where the front door is. So this is basically where the front door of the house is going to be walking in. And these pipes you're seeing here are the laundry room and then the water heater closet. So let's talk about these pipes. These two pipes here are the vent pipe, which now is on test. Now we test all the drain waste vent system with air. You could test with water as well. In the north, it's common to see the guys test with air because we're worried about freezing weather. Obviously not a concern today in Texas. It's like 85 degrees and 90% humidity today. We test with air typically. Now we're not going very high. If you look at this gauge here, we got it pegged at about 6 PSI. So this gauge is all we need. That's enough, right? This isn't a pressurized system. We're just making sure that we don't have any leaks. So we pump this up, and then right here is my approved set of plans. My inspector should be dropping by any second today. So that is part of the drain waste vent system. That's the vent, and then this drain here is gonna drain the washing machine, which is in this space here. Now the other two pipes on here, these are not part of the test. This is actually part of the overflow drain system in the house. We spent a bunch of time in pre-planning and talking with my plumber about where we wanted those and what we had for those. So we'll go back to the studio in a minute to talk about those. But I want you to take special attention and take a look at, for instance, where this Schedule 40 PVC is going through a beam location or is stubbing up through the slab. It's code to protect that pipe from the concrete. So we're just using basically a strip of a tar paper-like material and some duct tape to hold that in place. All we're doing there is making sure that the concrete is not sticking there. And then you're also gonna notice the plumbers did a real nice job embedding this into the road-based material that we've got on the job site. So everything's laid out. Now, a couple things I want to mention. First off, this slab is getting covered. Remember, I talked about in the earlier episodes, From the original slab to the final top of slab is about 5 inches. So when I look at that form board down there, I've got a 2x6 basically above here. So top of slab is going to be quite a bit higher. We've got a full rebar. We're going to be connecting all this to the original slab and pouring over top of that. So these pipes here, concrete's going to come up to, you know, roughly here, something like that, and then these are going to be sticking up. When we get done with framing, we're going to be doing an insulated subfloor detail. On top of that concrete, I'm going to have some Atlas foam, and then I'm going to have 2 layers of Huber Advantech subfloor so that I can basically insulate and isolate my house from this cold slab in the wintertime. Now, 2 things that does for me. That allows me to have a problem on the job where, let's say I have to jackhammer one of these pipes and move them because I got off of a wall. It's not obviously ideal, but what it means is I don't have, let's say, finished concrete in these areas that I'm worried about. Oh my gosh, this pipe was outside of a wall cavity and now I've got a jackhammer. It's going to screw up my finished concrete. If I had finished concrete and I was really worried about that, and I have done this several times, I get my surveyor to come back and double check. You honestly can't double check enough. We've done it with our tape measure several times, but I would actually have the survey company come back and double check these pipe locations to make sure they're exactly between the wall, because I'd be worried if I had to move this and jackhammer, it would screw up my finished concrete. Again, I'm not worried about that because I'm covering everything with several inches of insulation, subfloor, and then ultimately tile and hardwoods, which are going on top of that. Now, I mentioned earlier that I've got drain waste vent and then I've got emergency drain. This right here is the exit for my emergency drain. There's a check valve going on there, so we'll show you what that check valve looks like. And then I'm a big fan of when pipes come out of the house that are random. I want to take a label maker and actually label that. You know, 20 years from now when I'm dead and gone, hopefully I'm not dead then, but when I'm gone, I want people to know, hey, what's this pipe sticking out from the foundation? So I'm actually going to get a really high quality label and put it on there saying, hey, this is the emergency drain for this, this, and this room, that sort of thing. Now walk with me back to the back of the foundation. This was all the original slab, and then this is all the addition. This is basically new construction back here, and you can see the only plumbing I've got in this entire space right here is the emergency floor drain for the HVAC system. This just allows me to make a pan underneath my upflow air conditioner in here and make sure that if there was an emergency, I've got a drain to drain that out. So there'll be a check valve in this location as well. But this is kind of good that we rained this weekend, because all this road base that we compacted is now even that much more compacted. And back here, you might as well assume that we've got a new construction house. You can see I've got board forming on the backhand side, which is going to form the outer walls of my slab addition back here. And then this has a perimeter beam. So all the way around on the outside of this, we dug down until we hit rock, and then I have to double check the engineering. Usually the rock is excavated for like 6 inches to a foot to make sure that we're embedding into that rock with this new foundation. Now, if this is a little bit wider back here, you might see a beam in the center of this section. But we didn't need that according to our engineer. Again, we've got pretty rocky soil in this space, which makes for a really nice foundation. But with that being said, that's the basic tour of what's happening with plumbing here. Electrical, there's really not much when it comes to the slab on electrical. Now in this back corner where the power comes in, we're gonna have to drop a ground rod and we're gonna have to bond to one of the beams over there. So that's really the only electric that happens there. And then I've got 2 places where I need conduit. I've got some electrical underneath my island that's going to need to come in to make sure that I've got space to run plugs on that island, which will be required by code. And in this family room where we're standing right here, there's going to be 1 outlet probably underneath the couch. I'd have to double check plans for that. So really that's the only conduit, that's the only sub slab electrical. It was pretty straightforward to plan for that. Really just a quick conversation with the electrician is all I needed. I do want you to notice though that I have no water lines under the slab. We specifically didn't put a sink in the island. The sink is on an outside wall, so we'll be able to bring those water lines from ahead. And so when I first started the video, you saw that conduit that I've got there, that Schedule 40, I don't know if that's a 4-inch pipe or a 2-inch pipe, but where that gets run later, we're gonna be running our PEX line into the house. Everything else is gonna get fed overground. I wanna try and keep as much as possible water out of the slab in any locations. If those PEX lines get perforated, have a problem, it's not good for us. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. With that being said, let me go back to the studio. We're gonna rewind time a little bit because we spent a lot of time with our friends at Eagle Plumbing who are doing this work for me here to kind of pre-plan not only where's the underground, but where's the top out plumbing as well going in this house. So let's rewind time now. All right, y'all, we got the full team assembled for today's pre-construction meeting, and you guys are gonna get to listen in on what happens. Now, most of the time we don't have a really cool vibe board in these meetings. This is a new addition to my team. But often we'll do this pre-construction meeting with all of our trade partners, with all the designers and the building team, so that we can figure out, hey, what are we gonna need to do when this house gets built? Where are we gonna run things? Now, with BFS's digital tools, this is going to take it to the next level. Now, you're going to see a bit of a digital version of a pre-con today, but when we meet back again in a couple weeks, everything we do today is going to translate into what I like to call the skeleton of the house. And we're also on that skeleton going to be able to show where the heart and the lungs and the blood veins are going in the house. So we're actually going to be able to show you, here's what the HVAC system, the plumbing system, and the electrical system, including even the cans, are going to look like on the house. So that being said, let me introduce you to the crew we've got today. First off, my business partner, Tim Hill, who makes up the other half of Reisinger Build. I've got Brent from Eagle Plumbing. Y'all have met Steve before, obviously. I've got Bert from Air Right. Bert and I worked together for almost 18 years now, which is crazy. Chelsea, our architect at Reisinger Build. And Lindsay, my sales rep with Builders First Source. Lindsay's been working with us for at least a decade now, Lindsay. Maybe it's been more than that even.
Maybe a little bit longer than that.
Maybe a little longer. We're getting older, Lindsay. I hate to say it. All right, that being said, let's jump in with Steve and let's let you guys actually plan what the systems are going to look like on the house. And well, another thing I want to mention here real quick is that the stuff that we're talking about, Brent, they're going to be able to translate to perfect dimensions. So when your crew gets out to the slab, they'll actually be able to say, okay, this you know, toilet line, let's say, here's the precise location of the measurements off the forms to get that thing in the exact spot we need it.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we have. We have the water heater there. We have a toilet, sink, toilet, double sink, shower, those walls, and we have our washing machine there, and then kitchen sink, dishwasher, and then whatever applicable drains. So let's in here. So let's talk a little bit about what your requirements are and what are your thinking. Do you start with the larger pipes first, toilets?
Yeah.
Drains?
Well, your exit, of course, over here.
On the far right,
Uh-huh.
over here.
And we're coming across the slab here at a 22-degree angle, then straightening up. Actually, I came across the showers, right at the showers.
All right. So that comes.
Then I did a 22-degree angle out. Because we're fighting slope.
Oh yeah, make sure you're gonna fall.
Yeah.
And as a side note, our sewers are not very deep in Austin, Texas, are they?
Right.
How deep do you think that is at the street?
It's
Just out of
about,
curiosity.
I think it's about almost 3 feet, not
Yeah,
quite.
It's really shallow compared to other parts of the country that have full basements. You know, where Steve builds in Boston.
Yeah,
the
we might be
sewers-
8 or 9 feet down
Right.
on some parts of the street. Yeah. It's
So then the next thing I looked at is the upstairs, where I'm going to bring my 3-inch stacks for the upstairs bathrooms.
in a second we'll bring that up. So here, you know, we have basically a mirrored situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so our floor joists, if you remember, they're in this direction and this direction, kind of split somewhere down through here. So we're coming off of these. The toilet, this stuff is just going straight down into the floor. What was the plan coming out of here.
Well, I got to think about how I'm going to vent each toilet, each fixture up to code.
Right.
So how I approach the toilet, I got to pick something up, vent it beforehand.
But I mean, this, we're picking this up, bringing it up the wall, bringing it into the roof.
Yeah, we've got a pretty open truss layout.
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, Brent, if we could gang all our roof vents into just one penetration, you know,
And
ideally
keep
in
the
the back of the
penetration
ridge,
on that side of the
yeah,
ridge.
the back side, that'd be awesome.
We
And
can do that.
relatively, me personally, I like to keep them in the top third because they see less water.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. The
Yeah.
closer I get it to
Closer
the ridge,
to the
but
ridge.
tucked down a little so I don't see it from the street.
Mhm.
That makes a lot
But
of sense.
somewhere in here, it sees the least amount of water.
That's a great
and
point.
You can't see it. So,
Yeah, I like that.
so the vents, I mean, this one's pretty straightforward. This one here, we're probably bringing
yeah.
it up through there and bringing it up.
The vents will be on the sinks, on the lavatories for the toilet.
Okay.
And then I'll have a
Just
separate
tighten
vent
that.
by the tub, wherever. Probably this side of it, because I think the stack downstairs is coming up
Coming up from that.
by the washing machine.
Yeah, I mean, we have 18-inch floor
Right.
trusses. After Bert's done, you'll still have a significant amount of room up there. These are going to drop right into the floor.
Yeah.
There, so that's pretty easy. Those are pretty small, right? Those 2-inch, inch and a half,
2-inch vent.
2-inch on the drain.
The drain will be 2-inch, yeah.
Yeah,
on
so that's not really taking up a whole lot of space. And then
But the drain for the toilets will be
the
3.
drain for the toilets are larger. So
Yeah.
The good thing is on the second floor, and I'll say this in the light of it's better to be lucky than good, right? If we have our HVAC coming down through the middle, having the bathrooms on the far side gives you pretty much the last 4 or 5 feet of the trusses, and Bert's not going to have any work
Right.
inside those
That's smart.
for the most part. So
Did you do that on purpose, or is this
well, that's
the
what I'm
lucky
saying. It's
slash
better
good
to
thing?
lucky to be good, right? But so it kind of separates those and gets you all set. So having that stuff come down, and those vents or stacks are coming down somewhere in here, right?
No, because those are 2x4 walls.
Okay,
So I'm shooting one right there
we're gonna come down
away from the light switches or plugs.
Yeah, so we'll keep it inboard a little
There, and then one in the washing machine wall,
Oh, okay.
since it's 2x6.
Is that a 2x6 wall on the plan?
Yeah.
bit. Yeah,
Smart.
so we can
Good call.
get that one there.
I made that mistake at my house. I put a 2x4 wall behind my master.
And so this, I'm
vanity.
assuming this probably goes through that, and that'll
Yeah,
drop into that.
And then I'll
drop into that.
come off and
And
vent
catch
that.
all of that
Yeah.
stuff. All right. So yeah, your stuff is pretty easy.
Yeah.
The beauty of this house being a slab on grade, most of your work is probably in the slab,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and most of his work is in the air above.
that's
Yes.
right.
So it keeps it dimensionally displaced by virtue of,
As a bit of a side note, this plan will be available on the BFS Home Plan Library, and Steve's going to be working on a basement plan that will add to that. So if you end up building this plan in the north where you're putting a basement on, this would change a little bit because we're slab on grade versus basement, but the general idea is the same.
So, and then what about any other drains? Just for the viewers, like the drains out of mechanical system, do you put those in?
No.
You guys take care of all of your.
We usually do everything above the slab.
So HVAC, they take care of everything above the slab. If it goes in the
Oh.
concrete, guess whose job it is?
It's mine.
And so where would we normally put the condensate drain for that? Would that go through the slab, you think, Brent? Or would we put a pump in for that and pump it up and over to a sink, let's say, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess it could be either, right?
Right.
What would you prefer?
I prefer it to go out the slab.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any code issues?
That's
Do we
the-
have to treat the water before we drop it?
That's a Bert question on that one.
So, is there any ruling on when we run the condensate drain out, where does it have to go, or is there a dimensional code issue there?
Yeah, they like to see it 5 feet from the foundation.
Okay.
And why
that's-
is that, Bert? That 5-foot rule? Where's that come from?
Well, my understanding is because we're so dry here that it makes slab wet in that area, and you can have shifting
Yeah, with expansive clays, it could mean that you'd have some foundation problems with wetness in that area all the time.
That's it.
This house is 2 inches of soil and solid rock in this location. I'm not as worried about that, but of course we have to meet code no matter what.
Guess you can put a soaker hose on it or get something out of it.
Do something.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I mean, as far as these sinks and dishwasher, these are all just pretty simple taps and ties in to that there. What about the water service? Do we have any issues with that? Obviously, we bringing it in. We have the water heater.
We're coming into the garage, right, Brent, for the water service?
Did I see a softener on this plan?
Yeah, we got
Yeah, you
could
could bring it into the softener.
Okay.
And
Is it right side of the garage or left side?
I think we're thinking somewhere up in here.
Up in here.
Toward the top.
Yeah.
Or above that.
Or above that, up
Yeah.
in here.
So then you'd come in, we'd put an interior shutoff in, probably, right?
Yeah.
And then we'd go to a softener loop,
uh-huh.
and then you'd feed the house overhead from there.
Yeah. And
Right.
then you decide whether the outdoor hydrants, the hose bibs, will be separated from the softened water.
Oh, great point. Great point.
So they're either on the inside or before the softener or the after.
Mhm.
Is what you're
Yeah.
suggesting there. Okay.
Ideally,
Is there a
they would be
preference?
non-soft, right?
Right.
Because it's going to mess with your
hmm
plants and things like that. Although it'd be nice to have a soft one in the garage
For
when
the
you're washing
car.
your car.
Yeah.
That's right. No water spot.
Well, you could still do that.
We can still do that, and that's all overhead. That's no big deal.
Mhm.
And I'd like to point out too that Steve did a nice job not putting a kitchen sink on an island.
Right.
So we really don't need anything under the slab except for that 1-inch PEX line coming in, probably, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Mhm.
kind of nice.
Yeah.
I don't like burying water lines in the concrete if we can avoid it.
Other than that, I think
One thing to add on that plan too, though, Steve, and maybe you can switch colors, but we need to think about some drains that we're going to want in the slab.
Yep.
Because we want one in the laundry underneath the washer and dryer, right? We're going to probably want a drain in case our water heater blows up. We need to. This is a side note. We'll come back to this, but we need to think about your T&P on that water heater.
Exactly.
I'd like to see a drain where the dishwasher is, so we can have an emergency drain there. And then I don't think we do it on this job, but it is something to think about. And I want people to think about, do I want a floor drain in my bathrooms? I don't think we're going to spend the money on this job, but something to always think about is, do I want to do an emergency drain? On my kids' baths, on my house that were upstairs, I did floor drains, and I did a, what do they call it? A threshold at both their doors, so that if my kids were idiots and overflowed the tub in the boys' bath, or the toilet blew up in my daughter's bathroom, there'd be an emergency drain. It wouldn't flood my first floor. I think we eliminate those on this. Do you agree?
yeah.
Or should we spend the money on that?
We'll have one on the mechanical.
We will definitely want one in the mechanical closet. That's right.
And now all of these just simply tie in to that under slab, obviously.
Well, if they tie an underslab, we got to wet trap them, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if they go out and it's emergency drain, we should only have to
So
put,
they can just go to daylight. And,
we could just P-trap and put mineral
Mineral,
oil in there. Are you
yeah.
okay with that?
Yeah, I've done it several times.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything bad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be your preference? Put a wet trap in and put it to the sewer system? Or,
No,
or-
I don't like that.
Okay.
Because the wet traps tend to fail.
Yeah. So then let's pipe those outside, at least for...
so these three, I would assume, probably get connected to the same pipe,
Yeah.
the same drain.
Any
right?
any emergency,
And we just run
drains.
that out the back here, or
yeah, if you can.
can we can you get access to the trap? Can we put an access panel like in the slab of the garage, or cut it
I've
out?
never done that before. That's interesting.
Mm,
I don't think we need
I
that, do we?
don't know why you
Okay.
really need
Well, I'm saying
to.
to get all these run, and you have the trap there, so you just
So you
have
could put
one
oil
trap,
in it.
then
Yeah,
you
at
can
the
put the
end.
mineral oil in,
And then it does it for all three.
And
and then it
That's
does it
interesting.
for all three.
I don't mind
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's an option.
So we
I'd
can
also
think
like
about
to
that.
see that run in a 2-inch line, because I can
Mhm.
get a cap for that. That's like a rat cap.
Mhm.
Have you seen those? It's like a stainless steel grate you can pop off
Right.
a 2-inch pipe. So make a little note if you wouldn't mind, Steve. Just at least where you exit, let's go to a 2-inch. That gives you plenty of capacity,
And
right?
this
a
one, I'm
2-inch.
assuming that one is probably its
Yeah,
own thing.
its own thing. That's great. I love it.
I think we're.
That's plumbing. I think we're good there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brent.
Okay.
And the electrician, fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to get with Rick and figure it out. I don't think that's going to have too many issues. All right, y'all, just need Mike, my City of Austin inspector, to come on by, and then we are ready to move to the next stage of construction. These underground utilities are vital at this stage to get right, and having the time to pre-plan and utilize BFS's digital tools, that is a total game changer for me as a builder. Not just in the underground, but you're gonna see as we get a little further on the top out phase, that's really when it makes a difference. So stay tuned for those future episodes. We're gonna have the Eagle guys back to do the top out plumbing. My foundation crew is just showing up now. We got our rebar dropped, we got our Stego vapor barrier dropped. We got a lot of work here to get this slab to the next stage of construction. Stay tuned for the next episode where we're actually gonna pour this foundation. I'm gonna run through the rebar, show you all the structural components that go into making a structural slab. Big thanks to our friends at Builders First Source for sponsoring this series. I've said it, I'll say it again, their digital tools are a total game changer when it comes to pre-planning for your jobs. And I think as we get into this top out phase, you're really gonna see how that 3D modeling we did made all the difference on the structural and the ready frame package. Next up is foundation, so stay tuned guys. We're gonna be installing, we've got rebar, we've got vapor barrier, and we've got a bunch of concrete trucks coming in about a week. So the next episode is actually pouring that foundation, and I'm gonna run through all the structural details with the rebar. That being said, thanks for joining me on the Reisinger Build. We'll see you next time on The Build Show.